Where's your hope? In the outcome? My hope cannot be in my spouse.
With every season, there is always going to be messy. There's always going to be an element of chaos.
So I've got to figure out how to get my expectations onto the one that will never let me down.
Chad and Julia Veach. Let's just get right into it. This is really serious because I watch you guys. Are you having as much fun as your Instagram seems to indicate?
Yeah.
Because fun, wild, craziness, chaos. Yeah.
No, last night, 2 out of the 4 ended up in our bed.
Yeah.
And Chad, it was my alarm. It was time for me to get up, but I thought it was the middle of the night. And Chad's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Get this child off of me."
Yeah. I go,
So
you want me to
it's
take
a
him back to his
lot
bed?
of fun, but the middle of the night is not so fun.
Okay, so there's another side. There's after the peanut butter and jelly and the chasing and the screaming and the. I mean, it just looks like a blast.
It's controlled chaos, but it's more chaos than control.
It's
Let's
fun.
be honest.
No,
Okay,
it's
here it is. Your church, Zoe Church, is causing me so much work, you guys. I'm working 20 hours a week more. My staff is coming to me and going, "Did you see what Julia preached? Why don't we preach that? Did you see that sermon series? What are they posting? Why are we so uncool?" And they're so, what in the world is the Lord doing in your church?
I think we're just, having fun, just like you guys, just doing our best. And, we're here in LA. We love Angelinos. It's so amazing. Everywhere we go right now, everyone's like, "Is LA just the worst?" I'm like, no, it's the best. We have the best people. We live in the best city. We're just trying to have fun.
Here's one of the rules I have. Take your modesty, Christian modesty thing off right now. We're going to give you a 3-minute modesty gap here where you can just be as braggadocious as possible.
Oh my God.
Why is Zoe Church growing? Why is there so many positive, great things coming out of your church?
We say this often, but I think what makes Zoe so great is the people.
Yeah.
And if you've lived here longer than a minute, you would know Los Angeles needs community.
Yeah.
And it can be a lonely place for even people that are in the midst of families, to singles, to married couples. People crave community in the midst of large city. And that's what Zoe is to a lot of people. I mean, that's what Zoe is to me for sure. It's like there's just beauty in the courtyard.
Yep.
And I would say that's the secret.
100%.
Is the community aspect.
And it's the city of broken dreams. People have come to LA with an agenda. If you're not an Angelino, you've come from Iowa or Pennsylvania, wherever, with this dream, and it didn't pan out. And so there's such brokenness in our city. So we have the greatest message. We have the greatest thing to give a city that's broken, and that is the good news. And so I think we're just trying to preach Jesus, sing about Jesus, live for Jesus, make it all about Jesus, and that's irresistible.
So we were just saying in the kitchen about how Los Angeles is a destination city. People come with their dreams and their expectations.
Yeah.
And those expectations don't always get fulfilled here. Now, here's what I really want to know from you guys. So you're leaders. Everything you hope for in each other and your leadership has totally become fulfilled, right? All the
Every single thing,
Talk to us just for a minute about the dreams you had at the beginning of your relationship, the beginning of your ministry.
Yeah.
What did you expect? And then let us know, how's it going? How's that working out?
Oh, look at thank you for deferring to me.
Whoever's the most disappointed, go first.
Who is devastated at the outcome? I would say when we first got married, we were both pastors' kids, so we had a reasonable expectation of what ministry life would look like.
Right.
I would say I would fall into the category more of the dreamer. We both have 4 children, so we know the children that are the dreamers.
Right.
But Chad, he's more optimistic by nature, and he's known to be positive, full life. You spend 1 second with him, you'd understand that. Yep. But I remember having this question in the first year of our marriage. You know what I'm about to say. This conversation specifically that I was like, "What's your 5-year plan?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" Because he's very much like. He's passionate about the present, and he's optimistic, and he's faith-filled about the present moment.
Yes,
and that really helped me because it was like whatever his hand was doing, he was in it with all his heart. Yeah. And it helped us not get too far past
Right.
what we were doing, the season that we were in. So we were never in ministry as youth pastors saying, oh, I can't wait till we're senior pastors.
Right.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
never thought that way, and you led that really well as far as in the ministry category.
So like, keeping your expectations in the moment like that, Chad, was that just part of your faith experience, coming from a charismatic church, of the spirit-oriented, or is that just you by nature? What combination? Why are you like that?
Well, I think ultimately it goes back to just our theology. I think I had a good enough understanding of, hey, I'm getting married. This person, this soulmate, is meant to complement me, but cannot complete me. So I think a lot of times people have false expectation of like all my problems are gonna go away when I get married. Like single people just can't wait to get married. And I had to even adjust my expectations for myself so that I didn't put too many expectations on her. That it wasn't like, once I marry her, then everything's gonna be fine. I think I had a good enough understanding of going like, we're gonna complement each other. And we're gonna do our best to grow together. And no one's perfect. We all have flaws, we all have issues. Now we just get to grow in our flaws and grow in our issues. And I think we become a mirror for each other to help each other grow to become the best version of ourselves. So yeah, I don't think we put, false expectations on each other or our marriage, but we did end up, fumbling through holidays, fumbling through birthdays.
Okay, give us one specific example.
I'll go first. I'll go first. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that I ever made in our marriage was our first Christmas.
Okay.
So our first Christmas.
I don't even know what you're about to say.
Our first Christmas, we get snowed in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and we're stuck in a little condo with my whole family. And it's all newlyweds in this condo, plus my parents. So she kind of gets into it with my mom a little bit. And I choose my mom's side. Guys. Listen, this is the worst mistake.
I'm like sweating, and there's the one story that we are not supposed to bring up.
Right.
This is literally the beginning of the Bible.
Right.
This is the beginning
and the two shall become one, and the man shall leave and
cleave.
cleave. I didn't
failed to
understand
leave and cleave.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think you just to the best of your ability you try, but you don't know until you know, until you get put in those situations. I will never do that ever again in my life, but I had to go through that failure to learn, how to become the husband the friend and the husband I'm called to become.
That's great. We have a rule, and the rule is, you remember the rule with in-laws?
In-laws or outlaws, your choice.
In-laws or outlaws, your choice. So you are always the advocate for your spouse's
that's the real
parents. And you're always the opposition to your own parents. So you never go to your parents and go, yeah, I know, but Julia doesn't want to do it. You always go to them and say, Mom, back off.
Yep,
and then
exactly.
to her parents, you go, hey, great idea.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
Yeah,
and you just reverse that role. So tell us about, that was a moment. Tell us about a hard season where it wasn't going the way you expected it. What I really want to get out of you guys is helping people catch some of the hope you guys have in their disappointments. Tell us about a hard season in your life and what you did in that hard season.
There's been some significant years that we both would agree on. We would say this last year specifically because you find out how much you actually masked or how much you were dependent on life's drugs or dopamines, if that's exercise or work routines or getting on airplanes or whatever that was, kind of masked what actually needed to get healed.
Right.
And outside of that, the first year is always a challenge. There's adjustment and newness. And then the year that would stick out to us mostly would be the transition to becoming a parent, and then our first kid getting diagnosed with a rare brain abnormality.
Right. I think those would definitely stand out. First of all, here you have your first child. It's like Instagram has just come out. We're using the OG early bird filters. We're elated. We are just through the roof.
How many years were you married before you had your first kid, just so people can...
Two and a half?
2.5,
Yeah,
almost
right
3
there.
years.
Yeah.
And so here you have this baby, and we didn't find out until she was 3 months, her diagnosis. And so that whole 3 months leading up to that was pretty traumatic, and then to receive the diagnosis was
Right.
unbearable. That really threw us. And when I say threw us, it didn't shake our faith. It didn't shake our hope in God. It was nevertheless still the grief of it.
Yes.
The sadness, the devastation, the nevers that were spoken over her.
Right.
That was hard emotionally on your soul.
Right. Were there any heroes in that moment? Who stood up for you? Who got you through?
Yeah, I think initially, I feel like we all have these moments in life where we've received bad news, you know, whether it's a family member or a friend or a spouse or a child. You can specifically remember just like a wave of adrenaline of hope. In the beginning, there were so many people that showed up, brought food. I mean, that's the way to health for me, is through food.
Right.
And then the moments after, you find the adrenaline kind of goes quiet. The people that were there at the beginning have moved on with their lives.
Yep.
And you have these moments where you're like, oh, it's me and Jesus. You know, I'm kind of actually alone in it, and we can lean on each other, but if I don't come to him whole and I don't receive wholeness from the one who's actually whole, then that's not the place where I can find dependency and comfort.
Right.
So there were amazing people through the beginning stages, and then there were waves of grief where you're like, I actually have to figure this out. I have to lay on the floor of my bathroom and sob, but just experience what it means to get filled by the presence of Jesus.
Right.
And then we can communicate and lean into each other and be there, but I have to find healing this way.
Right.
And then through different waves, there were so many people
Just even as you're asking that question, I'll never forget guys like Casey Treat. Casey texted me one time and is like, meet me at this Starbucks. When we had announced what happened with Georgia, and he comes in, here's Big Red, you know, gets off his Harley, sits down, has a coffee. He says, all right, man, you're gonna be good. Gets on his bike and drives away. You know, it's just like that. But at the time, I was like, wow,
That's
Casey
huge.
Treat, that was so kind. Judah, one of our best friends, really rescued us out of, you know, we just weren't in a place to lead. At that time, we were the youth pastors. We had interns, we had conferences, we had music, we had, you know, all this stuff. And we weren't really in a place to lead. So he said, come up, we'll pay you full-time salary to sit and rest. And when you're ready to go to LA, we'll send you, we'll bless you. And so just come up and sit. And gave us a pay increase to sit. And those are heroes.
You sure?
Yeah, those are heroes that God sends.
The two answers, though. There's an ebb and flow between me and Jesus got to work this out.
Yeah.
And I need someone just to look at me and say, you're going to be okay.
Right.
There's both in their
You need
time
both.
and their moments. Someone right now I thought it was so interesting how you said that, is having a never spoken over them or over a child. They never will. They never will.
Right.
What would you say to the person in the middle of hearing that never right now?
Yeah. Well, I think never is an absolute.
Right.
I don't know if you guys are like this, but I go through all the scenarios when I'm preparing.
Yes.
So we called it Diagnosis Day. It's still like a day that like rings very specific in our memories. When we went and sat across a table like this, the neurologist slid a piece of paper because his communication style, they don't always, neurologists don't always have the smoothest ability to communicate news. So he's like, this is your copy and I'm gonna read mine. So it was a lot of nevers and nots and like very definitive absolutes. And when we left, it felt really overwhelming that you're like, oh, there's not a treatment or a surgery or there's not a solution or an answer. To feel like that glimpse of hopelessness where you're like, I don't understand what I'm going to do because it is what it is.
Yep.
And I think in those moments, it was like, oh, we actually have to have a choice to have
There you
hope
go.
when it seems like there's absolutely no hope.
That's right.
And it was a different experience because you're like, wait, I'm gonna research and I'm gonna find a way,
Right.
but there was no way.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, so the outcome is worst case scenario, and she's not supposed to reach a certain age, so I have to prepare with a different set of expectation, a different goal in mind. So it was a real pivot for us.
Huge.
It was a real adjustment for sure.
And I think, just you said it so eloquently, it's like, how do you have hope against hope? That's most of our lives. That's most people.
No one escapes that.
How do you
Yeah.
listen, what I learned about life is life has a tendency of touching all of us.
Yeah.
It just will at a certain point. We have a friend in the church who's going through hell on earth, and he's about 55. He's made a lot of money. He goes, I got to be honest. I've never faced anything my whole life. This is the first time I've gone through something bad, and I'm like, that's life.
Yeah.
You never know when life will touch you and cause you to put your hope in something bigger and something greater. So I think for us, we just said, hey, and this is the theology or the preacher side of us. I went, the man with the withered hand had no hope. The guy lowered through the roof had no hope. Blind Bartimaeus had no hope. A bunch of hungry people didn't have hope. Like, he just shows up in impossible situations. So I started thinking, this is an opportunity for God to show up and show off. And so because he always does the impossible when doctors, so when you say the word never, it makes me think, anybody that's facing never, just remember, humans or doctors do not have the last say.
That's right.
God always has the last say.
Yes.
I'm sure the prodigals, the father was, all of his friends maybe saying, he'll never come back.
Yeah.
Boy, you ran down that street. They said you were never coming home.
That's right.
It's just how God works.
That's awesome. So, Unreasonable Hope, I love that title. It's your first book. Then you just came with another book, Help I Work with People. And we were talking about this. What's interesting about that work is you guys work together. You're on the same team.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
we do.
so we worked together for 25 years.
How many times have you quit? Just kidding.
We just
We
one
quit a
big
few
time.
times, lots of times.
When
But we don't
Bayside.
work together anymore
yeah.
necessarily. And
So wonderful.
But what, Chad, would you say is it like to work with Julia?
Oh, geez.
And
Okay,
how do you keep working together? And Julia,
Oh, no.
what are some things about working with Chad?
This is
Well,
great.
here's
yeah.
the best
now
part.
Now we're
Julia
getting into
is
it.
my
Yeah,
boss.
Yeah. No.
And
yeah.
as long as I
like
come
that.
under
Yeah, I
her
think that's
authority.
awesome.
Yeah.
No, I think working together, in ministry, it's really tricky. It
Yeah.
really is. And what's tricky about it is not the working together as much as it is like, on your day off. When you're going to bed.
Turning it off.
And turning it off. We've had to really learn through experience. I've had to really go, this is not the time to bring up the budget. This is not the time to talk about that staff member. This is not the time
That's
to
me.
ask her. And
I
that
do
and,
that.
and finding the right times, scheduling appointments together to talk about the things. But I will say, we would not be here today without her. Like, God has uniquely wired her and gifted her with a business mind. She was in real estate before we got married and owned 5 houses on her own.
Wow.
When we got married, I owned 1, she owned 5. So it's really great when you can say, okay, you're good at this, I'm good at this. And again, we don't complete one another, we complement one another.
So good.
And so I'm very grateful. We would not be here today without her brilliance.
Working with Chad is exciting, adventurous, risky. I'm just kidding. No, it's fun. I signed up for ministry when I was a young girl.
Right.
So I said, my dad's prayed specifically over me every single night. God, let your will be done in Julia's life. And so I was like, whatever your will is, I'm in. So when you make that decision, it doesn't matter how you're serving in ministry or who you're serving alongside. It's just like all of it is a privilege because I'm willingly signing up for this. So, you know, if it's booking his flights to writing the checks, like I don't hold my role like this.
That's one great thing that we learned early on. So after George's diagnosis, she quit her job. She was working in real estate at that time. And so she goes, well, what should I do? She's kind of bored. So she goes, I'll take over your travel. And so I have never been anywhere that she hasn't approved. I'm going to preach there. She approves where I go. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go to blah, blah, blah. She's like, you're going. So she approves where I go, and she books all the flights. So she knows when I should get home and getting in and out. And so it's really worked. I never have to go, you know, I love these guys, Bayside. They're amazing. They're my friends. I should go. I'm just going to stay an extra day just to, you know, minister in Napa Valley. It's going to be fine. I don't ever have, you know, she takes care of all of it.
That's awesome. So tell us about the book. Just give us a little rundown on the book, because your titles are the best titles.
Yeah.
I work with people. Not easy. Not easy.
The whole premise of the book really is you can't do life well if you're doing people wrong. And most of us, our biggest struggle.
That's our new series at Bayside.
It's just the reality, right?
Yeah.
We serve the God of relationship.
Right.
He takes all the commandments and he boils it down to two relationships. He says, relationship with me and relationship with humans, not other believers, people.
Yeah.
Lost people, found people, broken people, healed people, people. And so I think we have a people problem. It's not a president or a politician problem. It's a people problem. Most of us don't value others because we're so broken. So the book is 3 sections: how to lead yourself and deal with your childhood trauma, your insecurities, getting comfortable in your own skin, your own grace, your own calling. So leading yourself well, then leading others well, getting good with relationships. And then the 3rd section is teams, groups, families. So if we can get ourselves, the hardest person to lead is not a person, it's me.
Right.
I am the biggest problem. I'd love to play the blame game. The only problem with the blame game is I am a part of every equation.
Right.
I'm in every problem.
Yeah.
So it's leading myself, then leading others, and leading groups.
That's so good. Julia, a minute ago you said something, and it was really profound to our topic on expectations. You said, I submitted everything to Christ, seek first the kingdom, and then from there, everything that working with Chad, now he's called me to, it gets a lot easier when you start that. What you're really saying is you surrender all your expectations to Jesus. I know a lot of people go to church and they've not done that. They've been to a lot of Sundays and they've not done that. How do you get there? How do you really take your calendar, your hopes, your dreams, and put it at Jesus' feet?
I wasn't always that way, I will say that. I think George's diagnosis really changed that in me. I tell people all the time, you would never have wanted to vacation with me prior to Georgia, because I was an expectation, a list person. I still love task lists. I still love to-do lists. Sometimes I write things after I accomplish it just so I could check it off. I do that. I did everything right in my pregnancy. I had such control. I wanted the outcome to be exactly how I envisioned it, and it didn't happen that way. So I think that really, it rattled me, it rocked me, but it really revealed stuff within me that I'm like, oh, I actually have to work on living from the premise that me plus Jesus is everything that I need. And when you are around people that are really happy and are joyful, that's the equation that they live by. That it's like financial pressures, health stuff, like they just live from this like gratitude place. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get there. And not that like we don't love goals and New Year's resolutions, but I think it's just something that we've worked on the last, my daughter's 9, so really the last 8.5, 9 years, we've really, really worked on that.
It's really good.
Yeah.
That's great.
So there's someone watching this, similar to the question I asked before, and they're in the middle of disappointment. So, you know, I always tell everyone, I said, marriage is like planning a vacation at Disneyland. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to Disneyland. We get on the plane, and then the plane lands, and you get off, and somehow you're in Pocatello, Idaho. You're not in Anaheim in any way.
I couldn't wait to hear where we're going to land, because I knew it wasn't Disneyland.
Exactly. They were like, I was going to be sunny. Someone's right in the middle of that journey right now. Speak to the person dealing with disappointment. They did everything right.
Yeah.
And what they got was not what they expected.
Right.
How do you get out of that?
Jeez.
Well, you know, my other book is called Faith Forward Future. The subtitle is Dealing with Disappointments, Delays, and Destructive Thinking. I think disappointment is like, name someone that's not disappointed.
It's a part of life.
But
right.
that's a big part of it, isn't it? Everyone, we worship perfection.
Yeah.
We do.
We do.
And I'm thinking of another proverb. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Disappointment, if you don't handle that, it will just sicken your heart.
Right.
So where's your hope? In the outcome? In the other person?
Yeah.
My hope cannot be in my spouse. My hope is in, we worship the perfect one. So I've got to figure out how to get my expectations onto the one that will never let me down. I've got to put it there, and then put reasonable, appropriate expectations on another human who is flawed and broken and has their own issues just like me. And when you realize how flawed and broken you are, you have grace and forgiveness for the other person. I saw Greg Laurie tweet the other day. He said, a great marriage is the combination of two givers and forgivers. It's hard to give and forgive if you're so disappointed in the other person.
Right.
But when you understand that you're flawed and you're broken and you got issues, it's easy to give grace.
Yeah.
Give another chance. Give margin for error. It's easy to give. It's easy to forgive. Why? Because I need so much forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got to really realize, why am I disappointed?
Right.
Right.
What is the source of that? Because if I put all my hope there, I'm never disappointed. He always shows up. He's always faithful. He's always compassionate. He's always accepting. He's always loving, always gracious, always. So I'm never disappointed if I put my confidence in the right person.
It's expecting things from others that we should only expect.
Right.
From
Wow.
God.
Yeah. I should expect human error from my spouse.
Right.
Paul, the great apostle Paul, he's the guy that writes, the things I want to do,
Right.
I don't do those. The things I don't want to do, that is what I do.
Yeah.
That's marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to take out the trash. Babe, I was watching the Lakers.
Why don't you want to do the dishes?
Yes,
No.
I want you to want to do the dishes.
No, our honeymoon was a big revealer of this. We dated for 6 months and then we had a 3-month engagement. So everything was hearts and flowers.
Right.
And we got
Hearts and flowers.
We got on our honeymoon and it was September, so there was a lot of college football going on. So we watched sports every single day, and we went to Hawaii, and on day 6 I was like, hey, do you want to get in the ocean with me? I didn't realize that he's a non-adventurer. Like he likes the pool and sports. And I was like, oh, simple's awesome, but I thought I was going to Disneyland with rides and adventures on my honeymoon, but I was like, oh, we're in Idaho.
Pocatello.
No, I think 2 things to that I've learned is that, you know what? We are not at Disneyland. We're in Idaho. I'm going to find what's great about Idaho.
Yeah.
I was like, we're at the pool. The pool is a little bit more relaxing, less messier than the sand, you know? Like, I like the pool. I'll learn to love the pool. And then, so it was more just like loving the surroundings, loving the cards I was dealt, finding gratitude in those moments, and really starting to confess that so then I could speak that. And then secondly, it wasn't like I want to change you, but the way I would present things to you became like, oh my gosh, listen, Disneyland or the beach, I'm gonna make my case, but I'm not gonna be frustrated if you're not gonna love what I love, you know? So I've tried to lure you to my way.
Yeah, 100%. And I was gonna say,
have you gotten sand between your toes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
You
He's trying to get me to
at the end of the day, At the
yeah.
end,
No, that
there
sounds
you
fun.
go.
I'd go. Yeah.
At the end of the day, what do you want?
I'm in.
You want to make your spouse happy.
Right.
Right.
And so if you love the beach, let's go to the beach.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we probably spent more time this year at the beach.
Yeah, we did.
Because all the pools
'Cause it
were
was
closed
open.
and everything
It was
the
open.
beach
There
was
you
open.
go.
There's a balance between demanding you change
Right.
Yeah,
and articulating my disappointment in a way that causes
go.
some compromise and change.
Yeah.
Right.
I love you guys. What I love about you guys is
yeah.
you have this balance between realism and faith that I think is a powerful combination. You know, it's don't give up hope, believe for the best things, but put that hope on God, not others.
Yeah.
And it's just a perfect marriage between being people of great passion, faith, that practically do life well in the kitchen. So
That's the goal.
Hey, I just want to tell you, you're doing better than you think you are.
Yeah.
There's more people that are for you than against you. I don't know what the enemy's been trying to tell you that you're not.
Right.
Heaven's trying to tell you who you are.
That's right.
And just remember, there's always more with God. Just when you think it's over, just when you think he's done, he's not. Because there's always more with God. Moses is like looking at a sea and going, this is it. This is how it ends. It's over. There's no way. Lifts up his hands in worship and God splits a Red Sea. Abraham's like, this is it. I've been waiting my whole life for this promise and I got to give him up. And here's my son. And boom, God shows up. Just like Elijah with the widow, just like David and Goliath, just like Daniel the lion's den. We go on and on and on and on. What's the theme of Scripture? God's not done. And if he can show up for a widow in Nain and interrupt a funeral for this no-name lady in Nowhereville, Nain, he can show up and interrupt your life and your problems right here and right now. So you're watching this video because God's trying to shout in your ear, I know who you are, I know where you are, and I'm not done with your life yet. So I know you're discouraged, but the Bible says, thou, O Lord, are the lifter of my head. Usually, he doesn't lift your head physically. He puts people around you to encourage you along the way to help lift your head and say, God's got more.
So good.
Dynamite. Perfect. Love it. That's your next book. Thank you guys. That was amazing. We're good? Are we good, everyone? We got more than enough.
Thank you guys.
Oh,
So fun.
Killer fun. We'll come up.
Yeah.
I'll feed you my sushi and
We'll get
you guys-
sushi? He stepped in, he was like, no.